We live in the age of 3D printers and AI, yet we've lost skills so advanced even robots can't replicate them. Meet the Ottoman craftsmen who turned wood into lace, metal into poetry, and water into music. These weren't just jobs, they were magic tricks perfected over 600 years. By the end of this video, you'll see why modern is just a fancy word for we forgot how to do that. Spoiler: the last master of these crafts died with secrets no app can restore. At the height of its power, the Ottoman Empire celebrated a dazzling array of crafts, each blending artistry, utility, and spiritual symbolism. In palaces and madrasas, Iznik tilemakers painted sinuous arabesque patterns on luminous ceramics. Calligraphers transformed sacred texts into visual poetry. Marblers, a brusiler, swirled dyes into paper that felt like liquid stone, and silversmiths inlaid steel blades with gold in the Damascene tradition. Carpet weavers wove equally complex rugs that anchored homes and mosques alike, while master bookbinders and miniature painters created illuminated manuscripts for sultans and scholars. Though many of these techniques survive in fragments, museum collections, revival workshops, or diaspora communities, the full guild systems and everyday practice have largely faded. 1. Iznik tilework, ceramic mosaics of the Sultanate. Iznik, a small town on the southern shores of the Sea of Marmara, emerged in the late 15th century as a premier center for fritware ceramics under direct Ottoman patronage. Craftsmen there perfected a white-slipped, quartz-rich body that resisted high-fired warping, then painted it with cobalt blue, turquoise, and tomato red pigments under a clear lead glaze. The resulting tiles, adorned with tulips, carnations, and stylized arabesques, covered palace pavilions and imperial mosques, creating kaleidoscopic murals that still dazzle visitors today. Yet by the late 17th century, the technique began to decline. The tomato red faded from use, geometric styles took over, and the grand workshops of Iznik eventually closed, their methods slipping into oblivion. Reviving true Iznik fritware demands not only the ancient mineral recipes, but also the tacit knowledge of kiln management and pigment preparation, know-how lost when the last master potters retired. 2. Paper marbling, Ebru, liquid stone on paper. The Ottoman art of Ebru, or paper marbling, transformed simple sheets into swirling stone-like canvases for calligraphy and book covers. Dye powders, often plant-based or mineral pigments, were floated on a viscous size bath made from plant extracts and water. Craftsmen then used metal combs or horsehair brushes to manipulate the floating colors into peacock feathers, storms, or abstract webs before laying down sheets of paper to absorb the design. Ebru masters guarded their recipes jealously. Subtle variations in gum tragacanth concentration or stirring rhythm produced wholly different patterns. Although a few modern studios keep Ebru alive, the ritual of dye preparation, pattern drafting, and drying in shaded ateliers is endangered. Most practitioners today rely on synthetic gums and imported pigments, severing the craft from its indigenous plant-based roots. 3. Islamic calligraphy, visualizing the divine word. Beyond mere handwriting, Ottoman calligraphy elevated script to the pinnacle of Islamic art. Styles such as thuluth, naskh, and the indigenous Diwani and Taylik scripts flourished in the hands of court calligraphers who spent years apprenticing under a master. Each letter form followed strict proportional rules, e.g., the height of an alif equaled 28 dots measured with the reed pen's nib. Paper was burnished with pumice and starch, pens cut from bamboo, and inks ground from soot mixed with gum arabic. Calligraphers produced Qurans, official decrees, firmans, and tiling inscriptions. Today, while digital fonts mimic classical scripts, few students learn the demanding manual discipline required to master the reed pen's flex and ink's flow. making true Ottoman hat calligraphy a vanishing art. Fourth, Damascene metalwork, gold inlaid steel. Inlaid Damascene techniques imported from Damascus reached their Ottoman zenith during the 16th century, adorning swords, armor, and decorative vessels. Damascus steel, famed for its flowing water-like patterns, derived from the Wootz steel process in South India and Sri Lanka. Blades were fashioned in Anatolian forges, then overlaid with fine gold and silver wire hammered into etched grooves to create intricate arabesques and scenes of courtly life. The resulting furnishings, swords that reflected light like rippling water, became symbols of status and martial prowess. However, the decline of imperial workshops and the advent of mass-produced steel ended most formal inlay schools. Mastery of Damascening today survives only in a handful of artisans who painstakingly study museum pieces to reconstruct the lost alloys and chiseling techniques. Fifth, Anatolian rug weaving, living pile and flat knots carpet. Weaving in Anatolia evolved from nomadic Turkic traditions into a sophisticated trade under Ottoman rule. Workshops in Uşak, Bergama, and Konya produced both pile and flat-woven rugs, each region developing distinct motifs, geometric medallions, stylized flora, and elaborate cartouches, dyed with madder root, walnut husk, and indigo. Weavers sat at low looms, knotting each thread by hand and following patterns transmitted orally. Finishing involved beating the pile to perfect evenness and washing rugs in mountain streams. Though modern mass production still churns out machine-tufted carpets, the intensive hand-knotting traditions, and especially the color-fading alchemy of natural dyes, have nearly disappeared, leaving behind only antique pieces collected by museums. 6. Leather bookbinding, Morocco's Golden Age. The Ottoman bookbinders, Silçiler, transformed calligraphed manuscripts into sumptuous volumes. They sourced Morocco leather imported through the Franco-Ottoman alliance for its fine grain and dye receptivity. Gold tooling, gilding, and blind stamp designs embellished covers with arabesque vines, palmettes, and calligraphic panels. Interior end papers sometimes featured Ebru marbling. Binding required skiving the leather to the right thickness, gluing with fish-based adhesives, and pressing books in wooden frames to set the spine's curvature. With the spread of printed books and synthetic leather, these bindings became rare. Few apprentices master the measured hand motions that produce flawless gold leaf impressions. 7. Ottoman miniature and illumination, the final fusion. Ottoman miniature painting and Tejip illumination combined to create illustrated manuscripts that charted history and theology. Miniatures depicted court scenes and battles in vibrant pigments, while gold leaf and colored inks illuminated margins with arabesque motifs. Workshops in the Topkapi Palace employed dozens of painters, each specializing in animals, landscapes, or human figures. Plates underwent multiple revisions, often taking months to complete. Though academic programs teach broad strokes of Persian-derived miniature styles, the atelier system, where senior artists guided journeymen in pigment grinding and layered brushwork, has all but vanished. Sedefkârlık, mother-of-pearl sorcery. Ottoman Sedefkârlık, the art of mother-of-pearl inlay, transformed simple wood or metal surfaces into opulent canvases decorated with lustrous shell fragments. Craftsmen cut thin slices of nacre, the inner lining of oyster shells, into geometric or floral motifs, then carefully embedded them into grooves carved in ebony, walnut, or boxwood panels. These inlays adorned everything from palace furniture and Quran's wooden covers to mother-of-pearl trimmed musical instruments, imbuing objects with iridescent shimmer visible even in dim candlelight. The process required not only precision cutting and polishing of delicate shell pieces, but also mastery of adhesives, historically plant-based gums, that would secure the nacre without discoloring it over centuries. By the 18th century, demand declined as European veneers and simplified marquetry supplanted labor-intensive Sedefkârlık, and most master inlayers' recipes and hand techniques vanished with the last palace workshops. 9th, Edirnekâri, painting without paint. Edirnekâri emerged in the late 18th century as an extraordinary oak lacquer technique centered in Edirne, Turkey. Instead of pigment-based painting, artisans applied layers of colored lacquers, often derived from tree resins, to wooden panels, then incised or scraped away patterns to reveal underlying hues and the natural grain beneath. Typical motifs included stylized tulips, roses, and arabesques rendered in contrasting reds, yellows, and blacks. On palace doors, cupboards, and ceiling coffers, these paintings possessed remarkable durability, resisting humidity and insect damage far better than conventional oils. The technique required meticulous control of lacquer viscosity and timing. Each layer had to partially cure before carving, or the design would smudge. With the decline of imperial patronage in the 19th century, Edirnekâri's complex recipe and carving methods fell into neglect, surviving only in a handful of historic monuments. 10th, Tombak, the gold that wasn't gold. In Tombak, gilt copperware, Ottoman metalsmiths created objects that gleamed like solid gold but were far more affordable. By coating a copper or brass base with an amalgam of gold and mercury, then heating it to vaporize the mercury, craftsmen left behind a thin but durable layer of pure gold. Tombak objects, lamps, incense burners, candlesticks, and decorative plates became ubiquitous in mosques and wealthy homes during the 16th and 17th centuries. In military contexts, gilt copper helmets and shield bosses conveyed martial splendor without the weight and cost of solid gold decoration. The essential skill lay in controlling mercury fumes, both toxic and volatile, and ensuring even gilding without flaking. As economic pressures and European silver imports rose in the late Ottoman period, Tombak masters dwindled, and the chemical lore underpinning their mercury-based gilding was largely abandoned for safer electroplating methods. 11th, Ottoman water organs, music from plumbing. The Ottoman water organ, or hydraulis, was a marvel of hydraulic engineering and musical invention. Powered by a continuous flow of water to generate air pressure, these organs could play multiple stops and dynamic effects without manual bellows. Often installed in palace gardens or near palace fountains, their pipes were arranged in carved wooden cases adorned with gilded arabesques. Famous examples, such as one carried into battle by Sultan Bayezid II, could fill entire courtyards with sound and even serve as auditory signals akin to a siren on the battlefield. Organ builders combined knowledge of water pressure regulation, su terrazasi, and wood and leather valve systems, a synergy lost when bellows-driven organs became standard in Europe. No Ottoman royal workshop survived to modern times with its hydraulic organ intact, leaving only treatises and travelers' accounts as clues to these music-making fountains. 12th Kemha fabric, so precious it was illegal. Kemha, an ultra-fine wool textile woven from the undercoat of Anatolian goats, was prized for its softness, insulating warmth, and subtle luster. Ottoman sumptuary laws restricted Kemha use to the highest echelons of the palace, sultans, princesses, and select dignitaries, as its velvety surface rivaled Chinese silk in luxury. Weavers processed the precious fibers through multiple carding and combing steps, then spun and wove them on low-tension looms to preserve the wool's delicate halo. Finished Kemha garments were trimmed with gold-threaded embroidery, further elevating their status. With the introduction of imported woolens and later synthetic fabrics, the labor-intensive production of Kemha became uneconomical, and the knowledge of its exact goat breeds, shearing seasons, and weaving tensions faded as the last Kemha guilds dissolved in the 19th century. These forgotten crafts were more than decorative arts. They were expressions of Ottoman values, harmony between text and ornament, calligraphy and tejip, unity of form and function, tile work and architecture, and the integration of nomadic roots into imperial grandeur, rug weaving. Each guild supported communities, maintained trade networks, and embodied intangible heritage. Reviving these crafts today requires not only technical manuals, but also reconstruction of apprenticeship systems, access to traditional materials, Morocco leather, natural dyes, specific clays, and institutional support. Modern makers can learn from the Ottoman model by documenting variations, teaching hands-on workshops, and leveraging digital archives to map global diaspora of techniques. The Ottoman Empire's crafts remind us that artistry and utility can coexist in every tile, thread, and page. Though centuries have passed since the last imperial commissions, the echoes of Iznik workshops and Ebru studios still resonate in museums and private collections. By studying historical logbooks, guild ordinances, and surviving masterpieces, we can piece together a renaissance of these skills, ensuring that future generations can experience the tactile wonder of hand-woven carpets, the luminescent beauty of marbled paper, and the timeless grace of gilded script. It is our collective responsibility to breathe new life into these vanished crafts, honoring the hands that once shaped an empire's soul and forging new bonds between past and present. If these vanished Ottoman crafts inspired you, help us revive their legacy. Share this video with fellow history and art lovers, and let us know in the comments which craft you'd love to learn more about. Would you try your hand at mother-of-pearl inlay, or experiment with the ancient Ebru marbling technique? Hit like if you believe these traditions deserve a comeback, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden skills that once shaped an empire. Together, we can honor the artisans of the past and spark a renaissance of craftsmanship for the future.